to Twisted Tales.
Twisted Tales, hell, blood and bones and unknown trails. Twisted Tales, hell, true got teeth and drags and nails. Urban riding, back road sin, dead men talking through the wind. Cursed objects, killer law. Once you hear it, you want more. No fairy dust, no happy end, just how the nightmare really went.
Good evening, everybody. Jeremy here. Another episode of Twisted Tales. As I bring to you tonight is going to be an interesting experience because I haven't had a chance to talk to the gentleman yet. As you know, Twisted Tales is the official podcast of the Maine Paranormal and Horror Convention coming up September 12th and 13th. I'm really, really looking forward to being a huge part of that event. Going to be speaking on a panel. Going to have a lot of great celebrity guests there. But tonight, I bring to you a man who's a co-founder of Wardruna Healing Collective. He is an author. He is a podcaster. His name is Thomas Patrick Gormley. Please come on in.
Hey, how's it going, Jeremy? We finally get to talk.
Yes, sir. And guess what? We're not talking in an arena now. This is fantastic. Hello, Sammy. How are you?
There she is. So I made it home safely, Sammy, as that you could see. I'm here with the bookcase behind me, or the faux bookcase.
It's amazing, and I know, Thomas, I know we've been both part of the network for a while now, and I've definitely been wanting to have you on the show and talk to you because you have a show called Profile. Congratulations on your first complete season of the show Profile. It was a very informative and very interesting show. I myself and my wife are both huge fans of true crime and killers and whatnot and so forth, and it was a very entertaining show. So congratulations on your first show and season.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. I appreciate All Access Network Television for letting me talk about my past and what I do now, just to help people and not become a victim. It's not about what's up, Nate. It's not about glorifying the killers. It's about seeing what makes them tick and what to look out for, the red flags, and just to help our children growing up to kind of avoid those things too. That was like the whole first season, but the plans for the second season will be each episode will be about an individual serial killer and how we look at them growing up, what the catalyst was for them to potentially become what they were, and little history behind it. And we'll have more guests coming on the second season. It's in the works. Just have to get through the busy paranormal spooky season and all the crazy places that Stacia and I are all over the place speaking on behalf of our group Wardruna the Healing Collective all over the country. I think by the end of the year we'll have been in 19 different states. So.
Oh wow, that's amazing! 19 different. Could definitely cover almost half the country covered there. That's pretty cool.
We're trying to get the word out.
So I know you've been involved in the paranormal or so for the better part of 4 decades. I think it was what I was reading on your bio, correct?
Yeah, my joke is always I've been doing it since the Dead Sea was just sick. So.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, so that's my little stupid dad joke, and but it's been a while, and I always tell people, yes, I've been involved in it in a long time. It doesn't make me any better than anybody else. I have a lot of experience, a lot of trial and error, just like anybody else would do to go out there to try and get answers for people. But I always say somebody could be involved in one day and tell me something they see that changes my trajectory and how I look at things. So it is the paranormal. Nobody's an expert at it. We have to keep our minds open. We have to not disagree on everything because you never know. I've had these arguments with people before, especially I've been at cons where people bring up the old orb. what is an orb? And they say, well, that's not anything. But you have to remember the spirit world and people on the other side, when they're trying to get their loved ones a message, they'll do it by any means necessary. Who's to say that that spirit didn't create dust for that orb to get their attention? Because if we're talking about dust orbs, then there is some purpose behind it. Yes, it may not be a thing of necessary, but them to create the dust and the light into the camera to get our attention is probably what they're trying to do, is get our attention to hear their story or to get a message across to help a loved one.
No, you're definitely right. I mean, I've seen some weird orb work in my time, depending on what location I was at doing the investigations. Hello, Anthony. How are you? No, and I definitely agree. I mean, we've only dipped our toe in what we think we know as supposed experts or whatever. We don't really know what goes on the other side of that veil. And I guess the only true way you're ever going to know is when you actually cross that side of the veil, and then you'll be the one talking to the people on this side. So to me, it kind of, it's a double-edged sword on that. So it's like, to truly understand what they're going through, you're going to end up being there someday. So you'll be seeing it firsthand.
It definitely is, Jeremy, because I've been known from a long time, and the book I'm working on now is called The Crossing. And the thing is I've been known for years to help console spirits to make the decision to transition. Like I said, they make the decision, not any of us. I'm a conduit to give them the words to help them make that decision. I could bring them to the door, but I can't go beyond the door just like anybody else. I don't know what's on the other side. I don't know what happens afterwards, but I do know there's a shift of energy, how I feel, that experience, whatever comes through, the ITC device to know that something, has crossed. And it's mind-blowing. It's life-changing to be able to do that. It's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of places that don't allow me to come to their facility because they think I'm going to make their moneymaker go away. It just doesn't work that way. My spirit guides will tell the spirits, if you need help, just call his name, and you'll hear my name called over and over again in an ITC device. So if you're on an investigation with me, you'll hear that. It is mind-blowing. And I appreciate it, and I'm grateful for that gift to be able to help spirit make transition as a shaman. So.
That is amazing, and I definitely do want to touch on some of the like how you became a shaman and what made you decide to go down that particular path. But to start things off, and I realized there were about 8 minutes in, but I usually try to start off with an origin, like how did you get involved in the paranormal? What made you decide to get involved in the paranormal in the first place?
It's a lifelong thing. Growing up, I didn't know that I had abilities. I just thought I was the weird kid and kind of stayed under the radar and, would feel things and don't know why. And it was very disconcerting, especially going into your teenage years. You just think, oh, I'm just, my adolescence coming in, going through my teenage years, and just thought I was a crazy teenager. But I had older friends that could drive at the time. I was 14. Halloween, we went to Central Connecticut University in Connecticut. That's where I grew up. And I actually grew up in Southington, which is famous in a few cases that we're about to talk about. But I went to the Ed and Lorraine Warren were doing a lecture. And, the Halloween time, it's cool, hey, let's try and scare each other. I've heard about this. Let's go see it. So we went, and I'm watching, and afterwards you get to do a little meet and greet afterwards. And all I remember was there's a bunch of people back there. I was like, how long is it going to take to meet and greet all these people and all that? I just didn't know the popularity, really that local popularity. Nobody knew who they were yet,
right.
Until the Conjuring movies came out, and then more people knew who we were. If you weren't from Connecticut or that New England area, you didn't know who they were. But, they were popular in our area. And Lorraine came right up to me and says, come here, my dear. You've been having problems. And she sat there. We talked for a little while. And then over the next few years, until I turned 18 and went off to college, maybe a couple times a year, I would go over the house. And Lorraine would give me, ways to, get through what I was going through. So it was like a mentorship and all that. And just, I was more geared with Lorraine, but, with Ed being around too, you know, it was almost like they were like grandparents in a way. Even though I wasn't over there a lot, I never worked a case because I think I was too young at the time. But they really helped me realize what I was. And, it's funny to look at it now. Um, Ed was a curmudgeon type of guy, but he had a big heart for everybody, and always called you kid and stuff. Had him swear at me a few times for being a jackass, and they find out that you're messing up at school, and you get a little mouthful from them and all that. But those are my memories. But some of the stuff escapes me, unfortunately, as I get older, and it saddens me because there's details that I've forgotten over the years, and I wish I could remember. But the main thing is that I think without Lorraine's guidance, I don't know where I'd be. I could be dead in the ditch somewhere, not knowing why I felt the way I did, and could be in a straitjacket somewhere, just like, what's wrong with me? At the time in the mid '80s, you're like, you don't know what this stuff is. The Exorcist was out, but really, you don't know. It's not like prevalent like now, where there's so many things on YouTube and all that to see, and maybe somebody says, well, I feel that way, I see this, maybe that's me, let me reach out to somebody. You didn't know the heck to reach out to back then. It was a tough journey, and I'm so grateful for that mentorship, but they became building blocks. People got to realize that we have mentors, they help us. We build and we build. We can't, rest on our laurels. We have to progress, and we wouldn't do our mentors, a service if we didn't expound on what they taught us. Were they right all the time? Probably not. We all trial and error to see what the heck's going on in the paranormal. That's why it's paranormal.
Right.
If everybody was right about it, it would just be normal. So we have to remember that we're all going to make our mistakes, and believe you me, we're all misquoted at times and all those things. But when it comes down to it, I have a lot of love for my time and my direction that was given to me. And I'm one that doesn't go out on social media and talk about these things a lot, but I wanted to today because there's a lot going on in our news and stuff like that, and it saddens me. I just don't think, Jeremy, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation if people like Ed and Lorraine weren't there to, pioneer all this stuff and make the mistakes we look back on, and we could poo-poo it, but who knew better back then? You had to try stuff.
I totally agree with you 100%, Thomas. I think that, they were the ones who laid the foundation for, the paranormal, especially on the ghost and spirit side. And I think, it's because the paranormal it embraces the ETs and the cryptids and the Bigfoot and all of everything in between, the metaphysical side. It all brings it all together. But yeah, without them, it really would never have had a jumping off point, so to speak. So It's amazing you actually got a chance to, go into the learning tree, so to speak, and get knowledge where a lot of people are getting like second, third, fourth hand knowledge from the OGs, and you actually had a chance to interact with them themselves. And to me, that's an amazing experience.
It is, and it continues. It continues. I have a very dear friendship with John Zaffis.
Love him.
We're very close. Father Bob, we're very close. Just drove 16 hours with Father Bob the other day, coming from North Lincoln Station, and it was just a great road trip back. Planes got messed up, and we were trying to figure out a way to get Bob back, and it worked out, I think, to the better, because we got to spend more time with him. And and Jimmy Pettinino, I've known him for a while. It's just, these are the guys, we all started out in Connecticut just sitting some of us just sitting at a diner, just talking about all the weird stuff and, having each other's back and caring about figuring out how to help our client and how to help spirit. And I still stick to that to this day. All this stuff we're doing right now, Jeremy, I always say if everything went away tomorrow, I still stick to, all I want to do is help, my client and help spirit. And that's what I do. And that's my goal. That's why, when I met Stacia and her vision with Wardruna and us getting together and growing that to help people understand their traumas and how that manifests into a haunting or just their own personal struggles with trauma and how to work through that and PTSD. And, we've worked really hard on this. And, we are involved in the paranormal, but metaphysical and just people in general, it's more open. But I think the reason why we're very in the paranormal is, I don't know if you agree with this, Jeremy, but there's a lot of people out there who get involved in they're chasing their own demons. And, I don't know why they're looking to find them, but I think in a healthy way, if we could help them, take a look at them, see them for what they are and heal over them. Because a lot of this chasing the demons is your own, what I call a familiar demon, which is your own trauma. You manifest that into the negative, and hopefully people could see that a little bit more. Hopefully it grows a little bit more. It is a different look at the paranormal, and I feel that there is a time that a lot of changes are coming. People are going to look for different answers, and I think we're on the cusp of that. And a lot of this stuff's not going to change. People are still going to try and take a scientific look at it. I wish we could prove scientifically about the paranormal. It's going to be very hard because we can't repeat, a particular thing over and over again to measure it. You don't know what the barometer is going to be at one certain point, what the temperature is outside. You got to repeat these things, and it's very hard in that type of environment. But I love that people do that. I'm not going to knock anybody. Anything we could do to try and get an answer, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll never knock anybody. The only people that upset me are, people that are doing it with the wrong intention. And they got to be careful with that. We'll come back and slap you, and I've seen it.
No, you're absolutely right. Being clairvoyant like I am, and being able to speak to spirits and helping people as well. And that, I truly do believe that is an amazing thing to be able to do, and I agree with the whole, like, chasing your demons is definitely a good way to look at it, because, sometimes the answers you're looking for are the ones you have inside of yourself and you just can't see them. And, it's hard to actually to see that, because sometimes you can pick up attachments. You've definitely seen people pick up attachments because their negative energy can draw in some negative energy here and there. And I think it's the people who do it for the wrong reasons are the people who are someone's trying to get their quote unquote 15 minutes of fame, I guess is the best way to put it, for lack of a better terminology. But I'm not really big on the TV shows. I watch them. They're good for entertainment purposes only. But when you've actually done a real investigation and you've gone to a place and you sat there and you communicated all the bells and whistles, they're fun to watch on TV, because if you tried to watch what we do just in natural time on television, the show wouldn't last for 3 episodes. People would be like, what are we watching this for? Oh my God.
Definitely not. You're filming for 3 days to a week for about 38 minutes of footage. So of course it's going to be all the cool stuff, and it's going to look exciting, just like anything. What we're talking about, you go see a movie, about a true story. How much of that is the truth? It's based off of a true story. So they manufacture a lot of stuff for Hollywood to make it a little more exciting. Sometimes in the paranormal, it's exciting enough. Put the movie together properly, and it's scary enough. I think you'll probably agree, Jeremy. There's some stuff I've experienced in my career that I'll never talk about, because I know if I do, I could give it energy again, and it could get really bad. When you delve into things of demonic nature, which is, I say 1% chance of 0.5% or whatever, it's go get your lottery ticket.
Yeah.
But when it does happen, you have to have faith. You have to have faith. You have to trust that something will give you the right words to figure the situation out, or at least to help whoever you have to help,
Right.
or to be able to call whoever could help. It's not an ego thing. Everybody thinks they could face something, but you can't. I hate to compare it, but it's like a football game. You're playing another team. You could learn the playbook, but then you have to execute how to go against that play
Yes.
to be able to win on Sunday.
Of course.
It doesn't always work that way.
No.
You could have the playbook all you want, but when you're put into the game, the playbook gets thrown out, and then you have to have faith in what you're dealing with, what you're discerning, what your spiritual battle is. And I think, unfortunately, I don't want to create controversy, but I just don't think, I say 99% of the people that are in the field now cannot, face that properly from what we were seeing.
No, and you're right. And I don't think that you could create any more controversy than it's already been hanging around the paranormal universe lately to begin with. I mean, it seems, sometimes there's just some sort of bull contest going on for whatever kind of clout you need. And I've never been a kind of person to get involved in any of that kind of stuff. I just, I enjoy what I do. I try to help as many people as I can, and that's the most important thing, and I was gifted these abilities later on in life. I didn't have when I was a kid. I didn't even do any of that kind of thing. It was more of something that I developed as I was going to investigation and then learning and experiencing, and then things just started opening up more and more and more. And, I appreciate the gifts I have because it can help people. And that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, that's the exact intention that, you should have. Yeah. And I appreciate that, you and Jeremy, for saying that. And, I know a lot of people that are in the paranormal, they're all trying to do something. I just say, just do the work. I tell people, just do the work. You don't have to ride off of somebody else or knock somebody else down to get somewhere. You need to do the work and help people, or whatever scientific thing you're trying to do, your experiment, work that experiment, and do your best at it. No matter what happens, if you keep trying to go forward. I always tell people, if we give up, we're never going to get closer to an answer. I tell you, the paranormal is a lot different than it was 40 years ago when I started, with the little boom box trying to get EVPs or using a compass to be able to feel if there's EMF around. There's a lot easier stuff to use, but it has, over the years, don't need much really anymore. I have a lot of equipment, when I do events, to help teach people so they could have that stuff to learn off of. But if I'm doing a home investigation, I might have a ITC device. That's about it. Just to kind of see if I could validate what I'm feeling and something talking back and forth, hopefully. Again, you never know. It really comes down to discernment, too, of who you're talking to. And that's another big thing in this industry where, people think they're hearing something that isn't really what they're hearing. So.
No, and you're right. And as far as the tools of the trade, so to speak, like your REM pods and all of your spirit boxes and your portal boxes, and I don't know a lot of equipment, because when I first started out, I mean, all I use are my dowsing rods and my abilities, and maybe the recorder on my phone, which is actually very good. These cell phones we have an amazing recording. You can actually do full-blown recording sessions and then play them back, and the clarity is unbelievable. I went out and found one of those old tabletop those cassette recorder things, the old school style, because I found them amazing. I actually saw John use one a couple of years ago, John Zaffis, at a convention up in Salem. We're talking 7-8 years ago, whatever it was, when I first saw him. And he had that old tabletop one where you press the record button and the play button at the same time, so it can record on the old cassettes. And the results were just staggering, just from the old school device.
Well, it is, because you're talking a tape, like a reel-to-reel or anything like that. A lot of times people have to understand that we discern stuff, anything in the paranormal is possible. You got to look at it. Everything is possible. No matter what. Who are we to put limits on what could happen and whatever is going on? We should never say that no, that can't happen. There is a possibility. We don't know how spirit's trying to get our attention or what they're throwing out there. Even with whatever piece of equipment that you use, you got to remember that anything's probably, like I said earlier, we don't know how they're communicating. Could they create dust and make an orb so they could get your attention? We don't know. You got to be aware of that. You got to discern your what's going on, what the context is of when you do pick up something like that. So never throw anything out. Really look at it, in a 360 view, not pigeonhole it and say, well, because they said this on the internet, then that must not be what's going on. You have to have the experience for yourself and really take a look at it and see what the context is at the time. Do I get a lot of people send me stuff? It's hard for me to discern because you send me a photograph. I don't know what was in the other room. Was there a mirror in the other room that created light to make that anomaly happen? I don't know. So it's hard for me to really say. I'm not saying it's not something, but
Right.
I say that I have to be there to maybe recreate it and say, hey, that's pretty cool. But it's very hard in this industry because I think it really comes down to personal experience. Because if I see something, I could say, hey, I saw that, but you're still going to probably have some skepticism because you didn't see it yourself. You're going off of maybe my reputation, what I saw, and you could trust it, but you weren't there to see it. It's like I talk about the Warrens. Most people weren't there when those things happened. So what really did happen? That's their experience, and they passed away, so they can't really give us the play-by-play anymore. Just kind of what they recollect. That's a big thing. You have to discern everything. You have to take a 360 look. You have to take your time, especially when it comes down to a home case with your client, with spirit. So sometimes it's just not the client. Sometimes you got to counsel the spirit too to bring peace. And at the end of the day, when your client can go to sleep at night, then that's worth it more than what a lot of other people are chasing right now.
No, I know, I agree with you 1,000%. And I think you worded it very eloquently there. So one thing I wanted to ask you, because I know that you've done work with demonology. How do you feel when everybody says that every negative thing uses the D word for every negative entity? I mean, I hear it all the time. Oh, this is demonic. That's demonic. What's your take on that particular on that viewpoint?
I kind of find it dangerous when you're throwing that energy out there. When you're throwing the D word out there, it's almost like you want to summon something. Just keep calling. I don't think these things want to be called, because if you call them too much and you annoy them, what do you think is going to happen? Be careful what you say and what you want and what you throw out into the universe and what you leave yourself open to. So there's things that are waiting. I always tell people it's just like in the movies with vampires. Vampire has no power over you until you invite it in. So if you want these things to come around, believe you me, you don't want it. That's why most of us that have experienced don't talk about it, because we know not to give it energy
Right.
in a particular pinpointed case or anything like that. It's very dangerous, and I don't know what else to say to people really, but don't be throwing that out there, and you have to discern, and the chances of it being that is slim to none. Again, we're chasing our own demons. There's angry spirits too. Some people pass before they can make amends. They get anchored here because of things, and in theory they could still maintain that aura about them of being angry. If they were a serial killer, they might still want to try and take you out and create energy problems with you, like they're trying to kill you in the afterlife. And some of us that are sensitive could feel that knife go through or anything like that. They're still trying to do something. If they were taking advantage of somebody sexually, sometimes they try and do that even in the afterlife. You have to discern, is that the demonic type of thing, or is that an angry spirit reenacting what they did in life? Those are the things you have to look at. You got to know your history, who was there, what they did, who might be nearby that might be attached to that place because sometimes energy is like it's like a moth to a flame. Some places, the people that live there attract that stuff. You could live in a house. Yeah, you could live in a house that's not haunted. The next people that move in, it's haunted because the person that moved in might have been in the military and the person that died there was military. They recognize that energy and they're comfortable with that. And the more comfortable they are to come out and talk to you. It's like if you go to a bar and you're trying to meet people and all that, usually you're attracted to certain people. I think really believe that in the afterlife, some people's houses may not be haunted, but there might be an attraction because of familiarity and a comfort, or vice versa, or you might have peed them off and did something that they don't like that reacts to them. But those are the things to know. You got to know your history, and you got to know how that energy moves through the house or anything like that.
That makes a lot of sense. And when I do investigations and people always ask me, well, what do I think? I'm like, if somebody was kind of grumpy during life, they don't automatically turn nice as pie in the afterlife. They do carry your personality does, I believe, carry with you to the other side. I mean, you probably could have some moments at the end when you make peace with whatever you're making peace with, and then who knows, change. But I've always been like, if you're nice during lifetime, then you might be nice in the afterlife. But if you were a jerk, there's a good chance that you might still have some of those tendencies on the other side. I mean, that's my personal belief in that particular.
It is. It's funny because just over the weekend, being down in New Orleans, and it always dawns on you when you go on these investigations. A lot of people just go in and think it's the spirits of the haunting of that particular place. Our loved ones never leave us. They're always around. They might take an opportunity to use that situation to respond back. So you never know who's going to come through. And a lot of people don't realize, and I know you know this, Jeremy, that people can transition and still come back and give message. And they could come back in a way of recognition. And the recognition is to come through maybe a spirit box the way you were in life, so the loved one you're trying to get that message to recognizes it. And it's important sometimes, were they curmudgeon in life? Yeah, maybe. But case in point, Ron and Lourdes, I know Ron Iacovetti and Lourdes Gonzalez.
Well, yeah, two good friends of mine, yeah.
Yeah, so they have the digital seance. So Johnny and I went over, I brought him over to this investigation at one of the places down in New Orleans, and we happened to come into the room, and Ron and Lourdes were doing the seance thing, and Ed Warren came through and decided to have an all-out argument with John and I.
Oh, geez.
So John's like yelling at him, and we're talking about stuff, and and he's I'm saying something to Ed, and I don't think, maybe he didn't like what I said, and he called me an asshole like he used to when we were younger, and so we're going, and people are like, holy crap. So, and it was nice because at the end of the week, after everything was over, that late night, we're all going home the next day, and Ron and Lourdes came up, and we had just a bunch of us together, and ran the thing again, and sure enough, Ed and Lorraine came through, and it was quite amazing, and a little dumbfounding and all that, and some of the questions we were asking, but they give message. They give message. They tell us, and they have concerns about people that are living right now and things that happen to them, and and it's great to know that yes, they have passed on. I don't want anybody to think they're stuck here, but it is. You could come back and still give message and still sound like you did in life. And people are like, whoa, they're still angry. They're not angry. They're trying to come through in a way that you remember. And I think that was special. And I know John loved it. I loved it. And this isn't the first time that they've come through for him and I being together. There's been a time Lorraine came through for Father Bob and I. So I know they're around. I know they're around for others to still teach and help people in this industry, whenever they get a chance, because I've heard other people say that, there was some things that came through and that they always trying to help out for the the people that want to bring this forward. And I think it's quite amazing. And it's tough because you have to discern who you're actually talking to. And this goes back. John and I were at Haunted Hillview Manor with Stacia, Mary Jo Chudley, and just the whole group. And we were downstairs, and Lorraine came through, and you always want to make sure. And something over the years that I found that anything dark or mimicky don't know dates or ages or things like that. There's not specifics from
Right.
trial and error. What I found out over the years that there's always something missing that you personally know that missing, that if you're really talking to that person, they'll know if that consciousness is still there. So to make sure Rain's voice came through, her timbre, if you've known her, that's her voice. So to make sure, I said, Lorraine, how old was I when we met? And immediately came through, no hesitation, 14. So we knew that we were having this conversation, and a lot of things that she was telling us was like how we're all connected, how Stacia and I came together, and how Stacia got to meet John, and how we all have this relationship now, and all that, and how it's all connected. It's amazing how it works. It's our experience, our energy together. I don't know why they keep coming out and yelling at us too, but yeah, it's an amazing thing. And whether you believe it or not, but again, all of us there, a lot of people have experienced it and were with us when it happened. So I don't know if we all could be wrong. So.
No, and as far as I believe, and there has to be a reason for me not to, because I've experienced a lot of interesting things, from anywhere from being scratched and touched to talking to spirits like I'm talking to you right now. I work in a hospital and food services, and I run across spirit quite a bit at the hospital, because you when you see them walking around, it's like, oh my God, what the hell is going on here? And it truly is amazing and I've actually only seen the digital seance experience that Ron and Lourdes do one time in person. I've heard it several times, and what they do is some amazing work, honestly. And it boggles my mind how it actually works and how clear the message comes through. Honestly.
Yeah, it was definitely clear. That was the first time I got to experience it. I was blown away in how they explained it, that really it's not cycling through radio stations. The white noise is underlying, but you don't hear it. What they put into it and the certain frequencies to get to, other people could do this method, but I don't know, Ron over 4 years mastered the certain settings to, I don't want to say foolproof it, but to really have that frequency where spirit could communicate clearly. It's a piece of equipment. But I tell you, man, that stuff that comes through on that thing, I was blown away. And, it's an amazing piece of equipment where we could have that conversation that might be needed, whether it be to get answers about something or just to help spirit transition and be able to have that clear communication. So it's amazing.
No, it is really cool. Like I said, I've only been in the room with it one time when I first met them at the Emory Estate in Weymouth, Massachusetts, years ago. It was amazing to talk to them, and they are really cool people. And I know that you guys just wrapped up a big event in New Orleans over the weekend. It looked amazing from all the photos that I saw. It looked amazing. So what was it like having for the first Paracon out in New Orleans for people who haven't ever been in New Orleans?
It was great. The hotel was huge. And I mean, the hotel's right on the corner of Bourbon Street. So, getting in and all that, getting our stuff out, getting into the hotel room. But everybody being there, it was very cool, because there's some people I got to meet for the first time. So you always like that. And some other people to just continue that relationship. And when you have that type of energy, there's always a buzz around it. And I always appreciate that. Yes, it was their first Paracon down there.
Yeah.
And nothing's ever easy, but if you look back and I look at it now, like there's so amazing things that happened that I'm going to carry for a lifetime with, just with John and I being able to have an argument with Ed. It was kind of fun. You don't really get to do that. And then, sometimes things don't turn out the right way, but a positive comes out of it. Like, you know, the airline got messed up for Bob, and he got to Father Bob, and he got to hang out with us, and we did a big road trip back, stopping in Nashville and then going up and just singing the whole way and having a good time, and knowing that sometimes people got to remember, yes, we do this industry, but we're all humans. We put our pants on one leg at a time, and we're just here to help people. But that whole weekend was just amazing. The food was amazing. Just the camaraderie was amazing. I had my Dickie the dinosaurs there.
Nice.
Sold out of Dickie, so, and which is fun. Like my fun items I sold out of. So people down there wanted to have fun. I have a koozie that says I love ghost hunting and the word, the F word on it. So, but people were buying those. You never know what you're going to sell at certain conventions. And
Right.
but it was amazing. So much was going on, and it was just great to be down there with good friends. I have good friends like James Stokes and Sammy Stokes and all that, being down there with them and us hanging out quite a bit. John Zaffis, Father Bob, the whole crew from All Access Network Television.
Right.
And just most importantly, being able to drive down and be with the love of my life, Stacia, and getting to share that time and getting to put the message out about Wardruna and getting people coming by and interested in it, and doing a panel with Father Bob and Zaffis, myself, and Bill Slevin. And then the second day, Stacia took over for Father Bob, and totally different panels. We just left it up to the people there. What do you want to talk about?
That's
Throw
awesome.
whatever you want at us. And I mean, there were some great questions, but on the second day, we realized that so many people are looking for something just a little bit different than the same old, same old.
Right.
And it really told Stacia and I that, Wardruna is on the right path. It's growing, and it's fitting a need that I think people are looking for now. And we're trying to raise awareness to that, especially you might have seen some advertisements on October 3rd at the Grand Midway Hotel, which is already have a Guinness Book of World Records with the largest Ouija board, or permanent Ouija board, on the roof. And Stacia had a vision. And so we put our team together, where it's going to be the Hollywood psychic Kenneth Drake and Stacia are going to do a seance on top of the roof. So a seance on top of the largest Ouija board, while simultaneously Mary Jo Chudley and I will be doing an investigation in the building for some ticket holders. So there's 30 tickets available if you want to buy those. That'll be great. You could join us on the investigation. And while this is going on, Tim Shaw will be hosting us and keeping us on track, and it'll be carried on Paraflix, but through your Facebook, because the world record right now is owned by people in England, and we're trying to do it the exact same way. They did it in a haunted location for 90 minutes at a
Okay.
certain number of streaming audience that we have to break.
Yeah.
And they did it on Facebook through a network, just like we're doing. So we have to match everything to make sure our attempt matches. So if we do break it, it's done properly. So there's still a lot of stuff going on with that, and I know that'll go through. And tickets will go on sale pretty soon. And anybody that joins us, and we break the record, if they buy a ticket and they participate, they'll get a certificate saying they were part of a world record. So the record pretty much is going to be the most people streaming at one time watching a seance. So, and it has to stick for 90 minutes.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, Morgan. So I have to ask this question because my mind just goes in weird directions. The world's largest Ouija board on the roof. Do they have the world's largest planchette that's going to go along with it, or?
Well, they do have one. I don't know if that's the world's largest planchette, but it's pretty darn big. But we're not going to be using that. But if it looks like a table, I don't know, it might be cool to use that. It has the sitting around. There's only going to be a certain number of people up there with Stacia and Kenneth Drake.
Right.
So it's going to be other mediums that we trust and all that, because, when you're up there on that roof, it has a little bit of a pitch, and it could get, to the point where, there's nothing really holding you up on the roof. So there's going to have to be a crew up there with cameras, because we have to make sure that feed maintains for that 90 minutes.
Right.
And, the production part of it is going to be the one where we're crossing our fingers on, but we know that the seance is going to go perfectly, because you got two of the best in the world up there running it, knowing how to do it, knowing how to discern and how to bring stuff out. And all the people that watch at home, it's going to be immersive.
Yeah, I mean, it's a safety issue. Yes.
Exactly. We don't want ticket holders to be out there. So we have to keep that part safe, because we want to make sure that, that's the part of the record that's going to stick.
Right.
There's so much stuff going on with it, and I'm very excited. I'm excited to be teamed up with, Paraflix too, and carry that. And it's going to be an amazing event. And I think most importantly for my partner, Stacia, is this will be the first time that she does an event like this. We're in the same county that she grew up in.
Oh.
And the vision really came to her was she felt the presence of her son that passed away, and the vision came, and she called the Grand Midway and talked to Blair, and Blair says, "Hey, you want to do it on October 2nd?" And she was like, "No, I don't want to do it on October 2nd. He said, "How about October 3rd?" Fine. Her son passed away, or his birthday was October 2nd. And he would have been 30 on that day. So on October 3rd, he wanted a birthday party. And when he was alive, he used to always tell his mother, I want to break a record one day. Guinness Book of World Records, always wanted to do that. And I think he's using us, and he's working through us to make this happen. So it's amazing.
No, that's amazing. And I pray you guys have the best of weather and the best of conditions, because I hope that you can pulls off grandly. So I would like to dive a little bit into the whole Wardruna Healing Collective, because I hear it here, I hear it there, I hear it everywhere, but I want to hear it from the source. How did this whole thing get started? Like, I know that you've been with Stacia now for a while. What made Wardruna, like, what was the beginnings and of how it all started?
Well, a lot of it was Stacia's own traumas. All of us have traumas, and all how we work through them. Some very bad, some not so bad, but you still have to work through them. But she was getting healing for herself and meeting people along the way. And this started over 20 years ago. So the name Wardruna has been around with her for 20 years. That's how the vision came. Because we get a lot of people, even down in New Orleans, came up to us. Oh, we thought the group Wardruna was going to be here or something. But, there was no group Wardruna 20 years ago. So we didn't know that some other band grabbed the name too. It is in the dictionary. It's the Keeper of Secrets.
Okay.
Basically what it translates to, it's it's a Scandinavian word, but it's also that Rus and Kiev, that Russian type of area also. So that's where the word comes from. But the main purpose of it is generational trauma. How each generation, things happen, and it stays in our DNA, and we have to break that line. Who's going to be the generational curse breaker of the family line? Stacia happened to be that for her family, and we wanted to teach other people that they could do it too and have the tools. What are the tools? Well, everybody involved in Wardruna is the biggest consortium of shamans in the world in our group. But not only shamans, just, psychic mediums, Reiki healers, anybody in the metaphysical, hypnotists, anything that could help you heal, to the point we have a guy that could cook for you and help you through depression with certain recipes. Just how food works with how we look at things. We work with the Cleveland Clinic has given us clients, the VA. So we're working with hospitals. We do have certified therapists on our staff that do more cognitive things. Sometimes talk therapy people get bored and they have a stigma to it. But what we like to do is EMDR, where it's like a movement to help you dissipate traumas and all that. And DBR is a little like EMDR on steroids, where it's a little more deep cognitive type of base of retraining the brain from PTSD or anything like that. All these things that are attached to healing, massage therapy, yoga, anything that we could do. But it starts at some point where somebody makes the decision, I want to heal. They could come to Stacia for a reading, and she could determine, well, this person really has PTSD. You should go see my friend who's part of Wardruna, who's a certified therapist, to get some EMDR. Or maybe somebody has some hang-ups in their past life, go past life regression or Akashic records or anything that we could do to pinpoint something. And then when they see, they go, aha, that's my problem. Then we send them to somebody else that takes care of that problem. And then that. And the next thing you know, you may not see that person. Like 2 years later, they go through the whole Wardruna process and they come see you again. And they're like, oh, that was, amazing. And my life is so much better now. And they're very thankful. It works. I mean, it's amazing. And all of us that are part of it, we go through it ourselves. It's something that if we're going to tell people to go see somebody, we have to know, then go get help ourselves with our own traumas and work through them, knowing that it works, because we're the first people are going to tell you we went through it. So it works, but it's a never-ending point in life to keep healing and all that. You have to do the work, and we provide the people to go to help you do the work. But really, when it comes to the end, is you have to do it. And when you do, your life totally changes for the, I guarantee it changes for the better.
Wow, that's really cool, and I mean, this it seems like it's a lot of deep work, and I know that you have a lot of different people who are part of your collective, and I know that you've definitely been doing a lot of work with like sponsorships for like different events. And Nate says you have to heal yourself before you can tell others how to heal themselves, if that makes sense.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Nate's got it right on the button. If you're trying to heal somebody and you're unhealed, you're giving that unhealed energy to them. But we're all constantly working on it. None of us are perfect. If you think you're perfect, then you're part of the problem. We're all working on stuff. But when you heal from something and you recognize it in somebody else and say, this is what I did, and this is who I went to, and this is how it worked for me, try it. What's the worst thing that could happen? You get better. So I don't think we've had anybody that got worse. If you got worse, I think it's because you didn't want to do the work. You haven't made the commitment yet. I always tell people, even smoking, if you don't make the commitment to quit, you're probably not going to quit. It's always going to keep coming back. You have to make that commitment to make that decision that enough is enough, and I need to break that generational curse or that constant trauma that happens over and over again. It's proven in DNA, epigenetics, and all that. Uncle Joe was in World War II and was a fighter pilot and all that, and then the grandson grows up being afraid of planes, so because the grandfather, got shot down,
Right.
Where does it come from? It sticks with that DNA. Some of those fears we have are left from other generations. Fear of starving. It could have been somebody that was part of the potato famine from the Ireland and Irish coming over, and you're so desperate to have food all the time where it becomes a trauma for you, and you don't look at things right. So there's so many connections, and that's why it's important to work through the Wardruna process when you have those things in past life regressions, and those things come out, and we could see where it is and make our peace with that and peace with those things, because we can't change the past, but we could recognize it and take it for what it is now, and now start trying to heal yourself, but also heal your generations to come, because a lot of trauma, it's like 10, 11 generations before it really dissipates and breaks. So.
Wow, it's amazing, and congratulations to you guys for all of the great work you've done so far, and obviously all the great work that you have to go, and especially with the world's largest Ouija board and the hopefully Guinness Book of World Records. Hopefully you get a chance to shatter that. Working on yourself is never an ending process. It's the only way to help yourself grow, and Hey,
Yeah, that's a lot of good things. And,
yeah,
Nate and Morgan know a lot of the work that we've been doing and all that. And I so much appreciate them chiming in and just adding in, because all of us have to keep working on ourselves, but all of us have to do the work. And no matter what we do, it is important. Even with Wardruna, when we do home cases, those become, recognizing that most home cases, a lot of the people, it's mental illness, it's trauma, it's things like that. And you never know what you're going to run into. A lot of times I never have to put feet on the ground. You talk to somebody on the phone, you work them through that problem that they're thinking they have a paranormal issue, and it really isn't. The state of Ohio built a whole case off of one of our cases to, that children were being abused, and somebody said that it was a demon, and it wasn't, and it was more of a mental health drug use. And state of Ohio, that county built a whole case off of it, and it's still ongoing. But when they looked at it, and we gave our resumes of the people involved, they were like, this is the best group ever put together, because there's a lot of groups out there where everybody says the devil made me do it, but you guys aren't the ones that do that, and we appreciate that. So we're recognized in that manner to help people on home cases and all that, but we're equipped because pretty much everybody that's involved with Wardruna have at least 30 plus years of experience doing this. Are we all perfect? No, we're all working on our own traumas, but we know when somebody comes in at the beginning where we left off, at least we could help them and keep leveling them up, all of us together,
yeah, no,
which is important. All of us as a society have to do it together. So.
I agree. There is no perfect person. Anybody who thinks they're perfect, better go look in the mirror, because they'll find something that isn't perfect about them. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. In my personal opinion, being around for as long as I have and seeing everything that I've seen, there are definitely no perfect people out there.
Yeah,
No doubt.
got that right. Yeah, well, it is. The most important person is the one staring at you in the mirror. That's one you got to take care of. So
No,
once you take that one, everything attracts to you properly.
I agree, man. And you and Stasia and the collective of Wardruna are putting out a great message out there for people, and I think that it's just going to get bigger and bigger and better as time goes on. I mean, it's a truly amazing thing that you got going on right now. And
it is the group. There's a lot of love in the group, and because of that, and Stacia has always had the vision. It's never going to be an I, it's always a we. All of us that are involved, we're all co-founders, because everybody that's involved is a piece of the puzzle to help somebody that needs help. Nobody's position or anything like that is any different. Yes, it was Stacia's vision. Yes, she, brought it out to me to run and put out there and make more. But, there's so many people that are involved, because without them, this doesn't run properly, and it's hard for us to help people when we're missing cogs. But, there are people that may come and go and all that, but, the core of it and the mission is always going to be the same. And we're all learning, but we're all want to heal people. We want to help people and help spirit, and that's what we're doing.
and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys got coming up in the future, because I know that you sponsor a lot of things and you get the message out there. So I kind of want to take the last part of this. I always do something a little goofy, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I always ask my guests, and I know that you're friends with James, so you can see the hockey mask behind me, and I'm a big horror guy. I don't know if you've watched horror movies or what. So I always ask somebody what your Mount Rushmore of horror characters are. That can be vintage all the way up to the current time. I figured I would go ahead and just ask you what your Mount Rushmore of horror characters would be.
Well, of course, Jason Voorhees. So I don't want to do my boy James any injustice. So I'd have to say Jason Voorhees, Freddy, Michael Myers, Halloween, and probably Leatherface was the original slasher. So horror movie wise, that would be it. But really, for me, the first horror movie I ever saw, and it scared the crap out of me. And I think it scared me so much that I just don't get scared anymore. Is Salem's Lot from Stephen King.
Oh yeah, that one. That one.
Yeah, I watched that at 7 years old because back in Generation X, they just throw you in front of the TV and say, "Here you guys go. Why don't you watch this?" And they're like, "Holy crap!" I don't think I slept for it. Anytime the wind kind of hit a little tree branch against the window, I thought that little boy vampire was coming in to get me. So
I agree with you. I'll tell you. For me, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, because I was forced to see that when I was like 10, and
yeah.
I was afraid to go to sleep for like a week. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd think that Freddy would be coming down the alleyway. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to sleep. That's definitely amazing, And I got to tell you, Thomas, it's been an amazing evening having you on here today. You've been an amazing guest, and I can appreciate everything you got going on with Wardruna and with the upcoming season of Profiled. I'm looking forward to seeing when your books come out, because I'll definitely be interested in checking those out. For anybody who wants to get in touch with either yourself or Wardruna, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, we the Wardruna Experience at gmail.com to get some information of some of the upcoming events. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna be all over the place speaking, so we'll probably be in one of your states. I think the next thing we have coming up, I think it's like HillCon. Then we're gonna have the Underworld Culture Con. The Hollow and New Jersey. That one's coming up, I think, end of this month. And Cleveland Paracon is going to be their first year in our backyard. So we're sponsoring that. So we're sponsoring a lot of stuff just to bring awareness, of course. But we have so many things going on. And, if you watch my TikToks and Instagram and all that, it's Archangel the Paranormal. And then Facebook, it's just Thomas Patrick. And again, Profiled should be back for the second season once this spooky season kind of calms down and I'm actually around to be able to do a live podcast on a Thursday at 8:00, and we'll get there and we'll work on that and make sure we bring you another great season, because I know, Jeremy, you do a great job in All Access Network Television, so I was always grateful for that platform, and I'm glad you gave me a platform today to kind of get some stuff out. There was a few things that were on my mind over the last few weeks of some of the things I've experienced, and I'm just glad I got them out, and hopefully I was respectful and just to see my viewpoint for whatever it's worth.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Thomas, for coming on to the show this evening. You've been an amazing guest. And everybody, this is Twisted Tales. I'm Jeremy. This is Thomas. And Gwen, take us home. See you later, everybody. Have a good night.